So many people don't realize that healing and personal development is not so much about learning more, it's about unlearning. So, what does that mean? A lot of us are conditioned to believe that the more self help books we read, the more podcasts we read, the more information that we consume and try to apply it to our lives, the more we will grow and learn and become a better version of ourselves. But the reality is that it all comes back to those subconscious beliefs that were programmed into you from childhood. And that's why all those therapists always ask about your childhood, about your relationship with your mom and dad. It's actually so real because by the time you are 6 or 7 years old, you are so highly impressionable. You are just absorbing so much information about the world, and however you were treated by your parents, your caregivers, however those early interactions with the people around you looked like, will inform and subconsciously create your internal beliefs and will create the basis for what you believe is possible for you and to your future until you can realize and recognize that you can choose differently. And so many of us don't even recognize to what extent these limiting beliefs are running our lives. Say when you were a kid, you only received attention and love when you did something right, when you were helping around the house, when you got a good grade in school, when you did well in soccer, whatever it was, you only received attention when you did something well. So then you learned from a very young age that I am only worthy when I am doing things well, when I am being productive, when I am being helpful. I am not worthy as I am. I only receive love and attention when I do something well. So I need to always be doing something well. I need to always be moving. I need to always be productive. I need to put my value and worth in what I do. Then when you become an adult, maybe you become a workaholic. You can't stop working. You feel like you always have to be the best. You have to put more hours into work, and you don't even realize why you're doing this. But the reality is because you were trained from a young age that I am valuable, I am worthy when I work a lot, when I do more things. So you probably have a lot of difficulty resting. You probably are not capable of slowing down. You feel like you always need to be multitasking and doing more and more and more because that is where you feel safe. You feel your emotional safety came from you being productive, you doing more things, you doing well at them, and then that's when you received love and attention. So that's what you learned. Or maybe it was something different. Maybe every time that you brought up something that you wanted to do, maybe you expressed your needs, your feelings, your thoughts, whatever it was, you were dismissed. There was no time for you. Your parents are too busy. Your siblings didn't care. Whatever it was, you were always dismissed and you were taught that your voice doesn't matter. How does this show up later on in life? Later on in life, you probably have a difficulty speaking your needs. You probably have this internal belief that's running your life where you believe nobody cares what I think, so I'm not going to talk anyway. Maybe you hide and internalize all of your feelings because you were taught, oh, my feelings are not worth being heard. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares. So nobody cares about me. So I'm not even going to try to connect. I'm not going to voice my deepest vulnerabilities. I'm not going to express my thoughts because I'll just get shut down again. And it's safer if I don't even try. It's safer if I just keep it all to myself. And as you're hearing this, maybe this sounds really sad to you, like, oh, I'm just screwed over because of how I was raised in my childhood. No, this is where we take the power back. So many people believe that the way they are is just who I am. It's just who I am. It's just who I've always been. That's just the way I am. But the reality is that just because you were raised in this way and just because you carry these subconscious beliefs doesn't mean that you have to carry them forever. Our human minds are so malleable. We can teach ourselves that this is not the way it has to always be. And this is especially true when you think about the fact that you were not always this way. It's not true that you were born this way, that you were always this way. Actually, you developed these tendencies as a safety mechanism. You learned what was safe. You learned that it was safe to overachieve. You learned that it was safe to keep your voice quiet. You learned that it was safe to internalize things. Whatever you learned as a child as a coping mechanism to develop emotional safety and protection is what you just carry into adulthood until you choose differently, until you wake up and recognize where that came from and get really clear about these are the subconscious beliefs that were programmed into me from childhood because of the way I was raised, but that is not the way I always have to be. And that is so freeing and powerful because you are no longer identifying with victimhood of being like, oh, that's just how I am. I can't help it. Other people aren't like that, so it's just lucky. No, you can develop and decide that I'm going to choose differently and I'm going to give myself whatever I was lacking then and train myself again to unlearn these beliefs that are so harmful and so limiting and just running your lives. So if you have the overproductive example where you feel like your worth is in what you do and not in who you are, what would it look like to train yourself and practice slowing down, to teach yourself that, hey, your worth is not in what you only do. You can give yourself reassurance. Maybe it looks like telling yourself out loud, like, hey, I'm so proud of you for not forcing yourself to go to the gym today, even though you force yourself every single day because you usually find your worth in that. Or maybe what it looks like is taking a vacation and allowing yourself to rest and do nothing and have zero plans, and tell yourself, like, oh, I'm so proud of you for doing that. We can unlearn these other beliefs that we've carried since for as long as we can remember, but we don't have to always be that way. Or if it's the example where you feel that your voice doesn't matter, what would it look like to practice expressing your beliefs, your thoughts, and see how your loved ones respond? Just because you have lived your life in one way up until this point doesn't mean it needs to stay like that forever. In fact, it shouldn't be. And this should be so freeing to recognize and know that you are able to unlearn these beliefs that have been programmed into you that you didn't even choose in the first place. This is your life, and you deserve to live a life that is not run by these beliefs that you didn't even choose in the first place.